Mike Owens, an Inside Fighter here, and it's an absolute pleasure to be joined by John Woods, who's hard at work in Las Vegas, preparing all his guys and girls for their upcoming fights, but most notably Merab Dvalishvili at UFC 311 in a couple of weeks' time. John, always a pleasure, my man. How are things with you today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, but it's always fun coming on. Everything's good. Just getting up and getting ready to get the day started and go back to the grind and get beat up all day.
Well, happy Christmas, happy New Year. I think we can still just about sneak that one in. Can I
Yeah,
ask, as one of the premier coaches in the sport of mixed martial arts, do you get a Christmas day and some time off over the holidays, or is it business as usual?
man, not usually. And this one was rough. And but this year actually it's JoJo's birthday on the 23rd, so she's like a Christmas baby
Mm.
essentially. So 2 days before, we had planned a while ago. We planned months ago because everything was kind of mellow, but that usually changes pretty quick. We got a beach house down in Huntington Beach, right on the ocean. So we planned to like spend the week out there. It's the first time we've ever gone away for Christmas. So we took our son and went down there. So it was kind of and we had that, like I said, we had that booked for months. And then Rob got his fight, and then seven other guys got their
Mm.
fights. And so, we luckily we have a great crew at the gym right now. Great staff, assistant coaches, and coaches that are just, they kept everything together, smooth running while we were gone for 5 days. So the answer is yes. We actually we got to have a Christmas and celebrate Joe's birthday, and but there's no really. It's the first time I've taken that long off in probably 5-10 years. Um, you don't get to do that very much, especially at this level, and with all the fighters just constantly in camp. So even if there's not a fight coming up, you're in a camp. So you're
Yes.
always right now we're in 15 camps.
Mm.
So it's always pretty crazy.
Well, you ended 2024 well with, and I have to give a shout out to a fellow Brit in Davey Grant with his big win at UFC Tampa. So great performance by him. And obviously we move
Yeah.
into Merab's huge fight at UFC 311. So I guess first and foremost, how's prep going and how are things looking for Merab in training camp?
Great, man. Just had sparring yesterday and his cage rounds. It's the best I've ever seen him spar. And I know that can be cliched. Everybody's always like, "Oh, it's the best I've ever seen, best." But that's what you're ultimately looking for as a coach. You hope that each camp gets better and better and better. And right now he's firing on all cylinders. Typical camps, ups and downs, bumps and bruises and things. But Marab is, I mean, he's locked in now. There was a lot of BS with the whole like, to be honest, he wanted some time off. He
Mm.
wanted to take a little bit of time off and do some things and stuff. But the UFC hit him up and wanted him to, obviously they wanted Umar to fight, and they're pushing Umar pretty hard. And so, after some time and thinking about it, he said, "Screw it, let's go." He's like, "I want to take it." He's like, "I want to stay active," and we hit the camp. It's only been a 7-week camp, 6-week camp, but the thing with Marab is he's always in shape. That
Mm.
dude never gets out of shape. That dude never stops training. So he's looking really good. I'm very, very happy with where he's at right now.
Was it always the intention coming off the title victory? Was it always the intention, or in your mind, or at least or Merab's mind, excuse me, that Umar would be next? Because we obviously had that huge fight between Peter Yan and Davison Figueiredo, I think in November time. Obviously, Merab's already got the victory over Peter Yan, so that the outlay of that didn't make as much sense. But in your mind, at least, was it always the intention that the first title defense would come against Umar?
Umar had said he didn't want to fight during Ramadan, and
Mm.
so there was things where it's like the time frame wasn't matching up with what we were thinking. But it's the business, man, and UFC wants you to do certain things, and Marab's a company man, and he'll do those things. We don't really get to pick a lot. Nobody really gets to pick and choose on how and who they're going to fight until you're
Mm.
like at that John Jones level, and you're at
Yes.
that you've established yourself to be one of the OG legends in the sport. Then you kind of get a little leeway to do it with. But being a new champ, we're going to fight whoever they tell us to fight. Umar was obviously, he's got hype behind him. His last name carries a lot of weight. There's a lot of money behind him. It was never about if we were going to fight Umar. It was just a time frame of what he said he wanted to fight, and prepping for him and getting prepared for a high level guy. Umar is a very skilled fighter.
Mm.
He's a very skilled fighter that you want to have a good camp running. Get the ground running in a good camp, and Um, but it kind of had seemed the narrative was always going to be that Umar was the next guy. The time frame wasn't matching up for, like I said, what we wanted to do. But hey, here we are. So it is what it is. You know, the UFC is full of nothing but killers, especially if you're in the top 10. If you got a
Mm,
number by your name, you know, and God knows if you're the champ, you're fighting the next best guy every time. You're
yes.
fighting the next best, ready to be champion guy every single fight. So it's no different from Rob. You know, he's been doing that for what, the last 5 years. I think honestly, to be honest, I've talked to a few people, you know, Merab goes out and beats Umar, which I believe he will. You know, I think there's no question that he's the bantamweight GOAT, you know, and had all those guys that he beat been title defenses, I think that question is, I mean,
Yes.
it's not even in question now,
Mm,
you know, so I think we're looking at the next bantamweight GOAT here shortly.
100%. The short notice aspect is interesting because I wasn't 100% aware of that. Obviously, we know what Merab's game plan, generally speaking, brings, which is a lot of pace and a lot of pressure. Is in some twisted way the short notice maybe a help for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't hurt. You know,
Mm,
I honestly don't think, you know, Umar and Khabib and all those guys, we obviously, know we're fighting guys that are going to come in prepared.
mm,
They're going to come in prepared as best as they possibly, as humanly possible. They will be prepared for whoever is against that, standing across that cage. But there is just something different, and that's why you see and you hear guys after they fight Marab like, oh, geez, he was stronger than I expected. He just doesn't stop. Like his cardio right now is on a different level. And when I say different level from even what, the level that's different
mm,
already,
yeah.
it's crazy. Like this dude, he's doing, and I can't stop him. He's doing 10 rounds or more. Like we have our cage specific rounds. We put him in the cage. We have our specific coaching. We're working for the fight. Well, the rest of the guys are sparring on the mat. We do those. He did 6 of those yesterday, and then I get my other guys in there going, and I look over, and he's finished up the class, sparring another 5, 6 rounds. The dude just doesn't, and looking the same. It's crazy. His level
Mm,
just keeps getting better and better and better. So, like I said, your cardio, and I expect Umar's cardio to be on point.
mm.
There's nothing that would say even in the time frame of this fight. I'm sure he'll be ready to go, but everybody's cardio is going to be at risk when you fight Merab. There's just no way around it. That dude it's a weapon. It is a weapon that people do not understand, and until you get in there with him. So
To that point, John, is it almost one of those instances where in the training room you're having to pull him back a little bit and tell him to stop and tell him to have rest days or maybe miss an afternoon or a next morning session? Is it one of those instances with Merab?
yeah, I think I've gotten like 3 or 4 of those out of him in the last 5 years. So, and if I don't do it, the thing I've realized about him is if I do it here, if I make him rest in the gym, he's just gonna go somewhere else and do it.
Mm,
There's
of
lots of
course,
places in
of
Vegas.
course.
Like there's pictures that pop up with him, and I was like, when did you go over? When were you doing that? Like,
Mm,
but we've got him kind of honed in, and it really is about learning to work with each individual fighter. And there's things that guys need. Some guys need more rest. Some guys don't. Some guys want to get in there, and if they feel like they're not grinding and doing what they're doing, then it affects them. Marab, I've learned really a lot of, things that are just different about him, but different in a good way. So I allow him to be him and allow him to do the things within the realms of being smart.
mm,
We don't want to overtrain and get injured, which is almost damn near impossible for Marab. You can't overtrain that guy. I just don't know how. Like, I think I would die before even trying to get him to that
mm,
overtraining part. It's
mm,
tough,
yeah.
even on the pads, like this camp, he's literally gassing me out by the 5th round and we're going, it turns into a fight between me and him going. And I just like I had to quit the other day. I was like, all right, round 4. I was like, you're shadow boxing. Let's go do something different. But yeah, it's just learning what your fighters need and making sure they're doing it in a smart fashion. And I think we've got that, we've got that method down with Marab. Obviously, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Um, he's fired on all cylinders, and I kind of allow him to be him. But yeah, there's times where I'm like, hey, chill out.
Yeah.
But like I said, he'll sneak off in the corner and still go do his thing. So it is what it is.
I want to bring you back to quite a famous quote by Teddy Atlas, which is a fighter gains 20% by becoming world champion. Do you subscribe to that theory or that theory when you look at Merab and what he's been doing in this training camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's truth to that, but with the title comes a lot. Comes a
Mm,
lot of different things that guys aren't expecting, a lot of different media, a lot of different expectations, a lot of different eyes on you.
mm,
It does feel different. The one thing I've tried to keep it with Marab is that, hey, let's just I don't care about the title or what the implications are here. We're going to win a fight. We're going out there to fight whoever's the next, which is Umar, and go out there and treat it the same way we've always treated it. And I think that mentality, will shine through better for Marab than getting caught up in the pressures of titles because it does happen. I've seen it
mm,
even a little bit with him. Like all eyes are on you. The expectations are more, and then this thing that you've always wanted to achieve in your whole life, you suddenly achieve it, and then sometimes that can get to guys.
mm,
That pressure immediately can fall on your chest and start to feel real heavy, and you start to look and act at things differently, or you start to think about, oh my God, what if I lose my title, if I this, and you've got to set all that stuff to the side. You really do. Like it's special to be a champion, but our goal at the end of the day is to go out and win the fight no matter what.
mm,
And that we can't have those distractions in our way. And so I think if you spend too much time thinking about, oh, I'm the champ now. I've got to beat. No, no, no. We're a fighter, and we're going to fight the guy that's across the cage the same way that we fought the other 20 guys. And Marab seems to be focused in on that. And he's a humble guy,
mm.
so he's not got caught up in any of the extra crap. But there is a lot of extra pressure and things and commitments and stuff that comes with being a champ. So it's just about keeping focused to what we've always done.
Mm. I have to ask you this next question, and I apologize if you don't like it, but there's been a little bit of back and forth between Merab and Umar, a little bit of pushing and shoving, nothing more than your average UFC title fight, generally speaking. I think when you look over the history of pre-fight beefs, if you will, I guess the question I want to ask you, and again, take this however you like, but is Merab, I guess, emotionally invested in this fight in a way in which he maybe normally isn't?
Yeah, I mean, but the thing about also knowing your fighter is
Mm,
there's certain things that you need to allow to happen that motivate them and push them in the wrong direction as long or the right direction as long as it doesn't spill over to the wrong direction.
of course.
He is motivated and emotional by Peter Yan.
Mm,
He was motivated and emotional with Henry Cejudo at one point.
yes.
He's motivated and emotional with O'Malley. So it's no different. That is part of the process that we get into. He doesn't need to, he doesn't have to hate somebody or be whatever to be motivated, but that's part of the process. Is he gets into the fight. He's there to fight. He's there to go out there and do battle with the person, across
Yeah.
the cage. This one, there's been a little more, I think, emotionalism to it as far as, that he does feel a little bit disrespected that he is the champion and that this guy there's a lot of debate whether Umar deserves the title shot. Umar deserves jumping up and taking it from beating Corey Sandhagen is no easy task, and that was a good win for him. But there was that little bit of a rub that, hey, I'm the champ. You don't deserve to fight me. He didn't have the same path, and that's just with everybody. Like no
Of
one's
course.
had the path that Merab had to take.
Yes.
Merab had to beat the best guy every fight to get where he's at. So um, that's part of Marab's thing. He's an emotional guy, but not overly emotional to where, trust me, like we're honed in. He's not like freaking out in the gym or worried.
Mm.
Everything's going the way it normally goes. So is it emotional? Yeah, but that's part of the process.
Any extra? Do you relish the chance to prepare for a fighter from the Team Eagle fight team or Coach Khabib? Is that something that adds anything extra to you as a coach? Because I know there is it's a experience for you as much as it is for the fighter.
Sure, it's always it's always when you're a coach and you get to corner against another legendary, guy where you're just like, oof, okay, that's cool.
Mm,
It's a good win on the resume, and obviously Khabib is a very respected fighter, and now moving into coaching. Um, but yeah, like it's big for me every time. To be honestly, it doesn't matter what level at. Just to be able to corner in the UFC is always something that I take very, it's very special to me. It's very like, I love what I do. I
Mm.
wake up every day and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is a great life. This life has given me so much. I'm so grateful and thankful to the guys I get to work with, and now at the level that we're on. It's amazing. So, but anytime you get to get in there with against the guy who's, like that, Khabib, and I don't take it any different. It's not any scarier. He's not, Khabib is got a few guys, and I actually, I don't really know what level of coaching he actually does.
Of course.
Obviously with his guys, he's got his specific guys, but yeah, he's a legend, dude. So going across and getting the chance to beat him and beat his fighter is always really cool. It's always a little bit more special. Sure.
Can I ask, because the last time we spoke, you were preparing Khalil Rountree for his lightweight title fight, light heavyweight title fight in Salt Lake City. Just your overall reflections to that fight. I think Khalil changed a lot of people's opinions about him, and that was one of the topics we discussed. But your overall reflection of the main event of UFC 307.
Yeah, amazing fight. I think Khalil had a great performance. We were Alex Pereira is a savage and he's the champion for a reason. There was things that when you get in there and you see the man up close and up personal, it's different than on tape. It's
Mm.
different standing next to the guy and go, oh my God. Like there's just different things. Like you could see from the corner, I was just like, man, this guy, okay, this guy's special. Khalil's special also, and
Mm.
we're gonna get there. And that's the thing too, is like knowing how good Khalil is and then seeing what Pereira was able to do in those situations. You're just like, dude, there's a reason why he is what he is right now. I thought Khalil fought a phenomenal fight. I think that, you have to be able to do what he was doing in the first 2 rounds, first 3 rounds for 5 rounds, and you have to be able to do it perfect. There is no error. There's no room for error, room for mistakes with Pereira because I mean the dude, his hands, his head, it's just
Mm.
everything, the structure on him. He touches you. Eventually, it just adds up. Like that jab and making the adjustments. He's a world champion. He was able to. He was. We were taking the first couple of rounds. They were close, but getting. We were working our game plan, but he was able to change it up, found his jab, and all of a sudden, and that's something too. Like he hadn't used in a ton of fights. If smoking that jab in there like he was, and he made those adjustments, it was finding what worked, and it ended up, catching Khalil. But nothing but props for Khalil. He fought his ass off. It was a phenomenal fight. I think we'll eventually get back there. I think we're 1 or 2 fights from maybe even being back there. People want to see that fight. That was a fight that, Khalil took it to the champ, and we were, this close in a
Mm.
couple areas where, oh man, maybe we could have done that. Maybe we could have done that. But I'm proud of him. I think it really boosted him as a fighter. I think it,
Yes.
it like you said, his stock. Not a lot of times when you lose a fight, especially even getting finished, where your stock just soars. And I
Mm.
think Khalil's stock soared in that fight, and that tells you how good Pereira is. People go, oh man, made it to the fourth round and was like doing great. Like
Mm.
it's a win in a lot of books. But we're looking to get back at that one. I think, I just talked to Khalil yesterday. He's back in the gym, and we're looking at the next move, and we've got some things coming up. And I think that I think honestly, we go out and get one big win, maybe two at the most, and we're right back there.
Do you feel like the result of the fight was more that Khalil couldn't maintain either the game plan or the strategy of the first 2 rounds, or do you feel like it was the necessary adjustments that the Pereira team and Alex Pereira had to make on his end to change the
Both.
course of that fight?
Both at the level at that level, we're talking the highest level.
Mm.
It's a game of inches at that point in time. And it's checkers. It's who's making the most move, calculated, readjusting. And when you're getting hit by a man that hits like that has knocked out everybody, that he's fought, and has that kind of the death touch, they say, that where he
Mm.
touches you. The thing is you can keep to your game plan, but when your brain is not working, it's scrambled eggs after a point in time, it's hard to stay to that,
Yes.
So I think Khalil did a phenomenal job, and it just got to a point where when he started making those adjustments, it's not that we couldn't make the adjustments or had that, the idea that this is what we need to do or this is what's going to happen. It's just your brain, your body, you
Mm.
can only take so much like that. So it's literally like having to avoid, you can't get touched by that guy. You can't get touched by that guy multiple times. And if he does, it just changes things. Like when that man hits you, it changes you,
Yeah,
So
I
it
imagine.
was, and there was a lot of things going into that fight. Like Khalil, first week of camp, broke his nose, busted his nose wide open down the middle.
Oh,
So I mean, you can see going in that, like we busted it open 5 days before. We had it glued together. He had
mm,
surgery, it busted back open. He had a plastic surgeon go in and do it. We did the whole camp, busted nose. So we knew that the first punch that landed was, we were going to deal with some adversity. So he got hit with that jab, and then
mm,
the eye and the nose and everything opened up. So, like I said, I'm really proud of going into that fight. Wasn't an easy camp. Going into that fight, he was dealing with some things, and he did what he did for as long as he could. But it's one of those things. You have to fight the perfect fight
yeah,
and make no mistake. It really is. Or you get lucky. Or I don't want to say get lucky, but you hit the guy and he drops you. And which Khalil, had it almost, it was this close. Like
mm,
when he missed that kick and he clipped him and rocked him, but you saw, that man just came right back. He's a Terminator. He's just
yeah.
like, gets down, comes right back, and he's pressuring back in. That's a championship mentality mindset, and that's where everybody should want to get. That's a perfect example right there. The guy got rocked, boom, autopilot right back.
Mm,
We don't know how bad he was rocked or not, but it sure didn't look like it after that.
yeah.
And that's just, like I said, there's a reason why he's the champ. But I think Khalil's going to get there. I know Khalil will be back into that, and I do believe wholeheartedly that we'll have that belt around his waist someday.
Finally, before we finish, John, and again, thank you so much for your time. I suppose the beauty of UFC 311 is when you wake up on Sunday, the 19th of January, it's straight back to work and it's straight back to preparing for the next fight. And at least the next huge fight is UFC 312, where Weili Zhang defends her title against Tatiana Suarez. So,
Yep.
what is your level of involvement in Weili's camp, and do you plan to see her in Vegas for this training camp?
You know, she actually chose to stay in Thailand.
Mm.
Tatiana trains a lot at the PI, and Weili's very private with the
All
stuff
right.
that she wants to do. So she knew that when they were fighting, that might be, she wanted to be running into
Of
her,
course.
and also wanted to stay on the same time zone. So I talked to them all the time. They wanted me to get out there. The goal, the plan was to get out there for 4 to 6 weeks and actually do the camp with them. Um, but all these fights, I have 7 UFC camps going on right now,
Mm.
and then Merab's fight got booked in that process. So it really kind of just the timing of getting away from the gym for that long, which is something I would absolutely do for her. I love training with her; she's phenomenal. Um, Great people, great camp, but it just couldn't happen for this
Mm.
one. So I talked to her quite a bit, and online and stuff, but they're doing the camp out at Bangtao, and then we'll reconvene and see where it goes after that. But it just didn't work out on this one. And I think though, from what I hear, it's going to be a great fight. I know Weili is killing it out there, and I expect still nothing but nothing to nothing's going to change. It's going to be, I think she's going to come out of that fight with the belt wrapped around her, wrapped around her waist, and then we'll go to some super fights after that.
I love it. John, I could sit and chat to you all day, and we probably could because there's that many fighters under your roster. I don't want to try and name them, but I know that Arnold Allen's been in the gym. I know that Nazim Sadikov has been in the gym. Davey's coming off his fantastic win. Cody Steele, Evan Elder, Jacqueline Calvin Cante, all on and on and on and on. So, John, thank you as always for your time. Really do appreciate it. And I wish you, right at the start of the year, a successful 2025 with all your endeavors.
Yeah, thanks for having me on anytime, man. I appreciate it.